We heard earlier from the Bishop of Athlone, Christy Jones, and we were talking yesterday with Tiernan Brady, a former member of Bundoran Town Council and now representative of the Glen organisation, the Gay and Lesbian Equality Network. Tiernan was one of those who spoke at the convention on the Constitution meeting at the weekend, which led to a vote by members to recommend to the government that it take the necessary steps to allow for same-sex marriage. Very different sorts of reaction to the news in the show yesterday. Keith Kavanagh is on the line. Keith's a member of the group Family and Marriage Institute. Firmly against the concept of same-sex marriage, Keith, is that right?
Yeah, we'd be against the concept of same-sex marriage for a lot of the same reasons that some of the other maybe texters would have texted in. I suppose just to say at the outset, the Family and Marriage Institute, we didn't begin to weigh into the debate on homosexual or same-sex union. We began just to promote marriage. And we do that in college campuses, schools and parishes. If parishes want us, we'll do it. Just to promote the social benefits of marriage as an institution. Then just coming from that then, we were asked to weigh into this debate, and there'd be maybe about 5 different reasons, which I think are very valid and very good reasons why we should keep the definition of marriage as it is, as it stands, between one woman, one man, lifelong, and then involving the children as well.
Okay, what are those reasons exactly?
I suppose the first reason is, and the main, as I can see it, the main debate from the other side of the argument would be that they want equality. But from where I stand, and as a young married man, a young 3 children, I'd see it that it's not an equal situation. A heterosexual couple, there's an intrinsic goal in heterosexuality, and that goal is that children. We bear children, we bear our own children, bring them up. Where that goal isn't built into homosexuality, so it's not an equal situation. Therefore, I'd contend that we can treat them differently. Obviously, we don't want any sort of discrimination, any unjust discrimination against homosexual persons. But when you look at the goals of both situations, they are different. And as I just outlined, they are different. Then, does a child have a right to a mother and a father? Society has to ask itself that question. Is there a complementarity between husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, that both bring something to the table in raising a child? If people think that it's the best thing to have a mother and a father, I think we should keep marriage as it is. It's interesting that the government spend absolutely no funding, as far as I'm aware, to promote marriage as an institution. So they do fund Glen, this organisation that was on yesterday. They do fund the Marriage Equality Network, and they fund all these homosexual same-sex marriage umbrella groups, but they don't fund.
Okay, but there were two young people addressing the convention the weekend, both of whom had lesbian parents, and they didn't seem to be anyway different than people who would come from, conventional marriage background or anything like that, and they were well adjusted and they spoke very well, very articulate.
Yeah, see what happens is when we get into this debate, we're not talking about individual persons. I'd say many of the children, homosexual couples, could turn out fine, and we all know that. But we're talking about generalizations. We're looking at social scientific studies, and it's, for instance, if a father is absent from a home, it affects the children differently than if a mother is absent. And social scientific evidence shows that. And if a father is absent, it affects the boys differently than the girls. So if we can see that from the social scientific evidence, we'd have to deduce from that gender matters, that male, females matter. Now, I'm not saying in all the cases that it will be detrimental, but I am saying in general, the best place for a child to be reared is by biological parents.
Okay, so your argument and your group's argument, it's not on religious grounds.
It wouldn't be on religious grounds. I don't have to use religious arguments to try and convince people that this would be a retrograde step for marriage and for children. It's the social scientific evidence that would convince me of how detrimental this would be. As far as I know, the Catholic Church, and you just had the Bishop on this morning, would be against it. Maybe for some of the same reasons, I'm not sure. Maybe there's theological reasons behind their arguments, which I'm sure are there. But for me, it's evidence-based, it's culture-based, and I wouldn't have to enter into religious arguments.
Okay, and what are your views generally on homosexuality, Keith?
Views on homosexuality. Homosexuality, it's, as I said already, that it's different. It's a source. It's a potential expression of love. It's a source of pleasure. But as I said, heterosexual unions are the only ones that have an intrinsic goal that's built into it that has a purpose. And marriage is in such a precarious state now at the moment in the country and across the globe in general, especially in the West, that if marriage is in such a precarious state, I think it's a really bad step to start the social experimentation.
All right, okay, well, just hold on. We're also joining us is Senator Susan O'Keefe, the Sligo Labour Party Senator, who warmly welcomed the weekend decision by the Convention of the Constitution. You think this is a very positive step forward, Senator?
Yes, good morning. I certainly do believe it is a very positive step forward. I was part of the Constitutional Convention at the weekend. And I mean, I suppose I'm puzzled there by the notion of, I think the expression was social engineering. I mean, there've been gay people in the world since the world began. So you know, they are people who are gay are our brothers and sisters and friends. No. Let's be clear here. You know, they are part of our
experiment. If you change the definition of marriage,
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay. You said social experiment. I'll come back to you in a minute. Right. Just continue your point.
Social experiment. I mean, my point is that gay people have been part of our community since time began, and for me, the idea now that we could be on the threshold of saying to people who are gay, hey, you know what, you're the same as us, it's okay for you to love each other and for you to be allowed to get married in a civil ceremony and to have your marriage recognised by the state. For me, that's an extraordinarily valuable expression of our belief that people who are gay are the same as people who are straight, that we have the same rights, and that in a country where we have, I suppose, been poor on rights for children and rights for women over a long period of time, this is, I think, truly a great moment. And ultimately, however, it is the people who will decide in a referendum. But I don't think this could be construed as a social experiment in any way, shape or form, you know, because, as I said, people that are gay have been with us since the beginning of time and have looked after children from the beginning of time.